stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order, Bart. Mr. Jim Angelo?
Here.
Mr. Jim?
Present.
Mrs. Wolford?
Here.
Mr. Scapora?
Here.
Mr. Baldineri is absent. Mr. Forish?
Here.
Mayor Griffith? Present. 6 present. We have a motion for approval of minutes from the February 11, 2013 meeting, please.
Madam Mayor, I move the minutes of the February 11th, 2013 meeting be approved and accepted and be permitted to remain on the Secretary's desk where they will be available for reading and inspection to anyone.
May I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any disagreement? Okay, motion carried. May I have a motion for approval of fiscal department reports and pay bills for the month of February 2013, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Mike. Second, please.
I'll second that.
Mr. Giovanangelo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. All right, now citizens' requests and comments. Anybody wish to speak? No speakers? All right, any committee reports?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to report on behalf of the Garbage Committee. We've held several meetings, and the meetings were attended by the manager and prospective haulers. There will be another meeting tomorrow, and I think we're meeting with a second hauler. The committee has more or less reached a consensus as to what we think the city should do, and I'd like to report on that now. Essentially, we would like to ask that we rebid the garbage contract together with a hauling contract and disposal contract. It would be a combined effort. Committee considered all the possibilities and a lot of the objections that were previously entered. And what we feel would be the best thing for the city at this time would be to keep the procedure as we currently have it. In other words, we retain the building, we do not lease the transfer station, and we offer a contract which will essentially consist of the system that we're using now with a recyclable container and the bag system with, of course, we sell stickers. In addition to that, while we're offering that for bid, we would like to include the transportation and disposal of all the garbage that we currently are hauling with our trucks to the transfer station, that a single hauler would, in the future, for the length of that contract, would do double duty, essentially picking our trash up and disposing of the trash that we ordinarily deliver to the transfer station. And in the past, we have not bid the disposal part, that has been negotiated, it's my understanding. And we entered into those contracts without bidding, but we like to combine it and bid the entire thing, one simple package. We will be asking the successful bidder to remove our trash, and in return, they would be given the right of use of the lower end of our current garbage, whatever we have, 3.2 acres. They would have the right to use any part of that below a gate, which is either there or which is to be constructed. There would be 3 parameters that they would have to follow, and they are these: that under no circumstances can they interfere with our present operation. The second one would be they can do nothing which would violate or harm our DEP permit. And thirdly, they can do nothing which would be in competition with the city. This would be a very basic contract. We already have it in, we already have bid one for 1 year, and we had a successful bidder. And the committee feels that a 10-year contract would stabilize our prices, and that would be the kind of a contract that we'd like to put out. Essentially, we're rebidding the one that we bid for 1 year. We're rebidding that whole thing for 10 years together with the pickup and disposal of the trash at the transfer station. Madam Mayor, that essentially is what the committee has decided, and of course we'd like to see it go to bids if we could, and I think we'd like to hear any comments, or perhaps some of the committee members might want to say some things concerning it.
I just have a couple questions.
Okay.
What's, for clarification, so we're letting them use the land, our land, we're giving them our land?
We're allowing them to use it, yes.
For a price?
The price, no, we're not charging them. This would be used by them in order to gather our trash and haul it for disposal. And it would be just that part which currently is, it's not paved. Probably there's more mosquitoes down there than you can count, and we aren't using it, so.
And have we done a financial analysis of what the financial impact of something like this is to us?
We do not have a financial analysis. The financial analysis is in our opinion, is that we do not drive the trash to a disposal spot, and we do have trucks that are in, I would say, medium to poor condition that are currently being used. The amount of disposal that we would use or depend upon them to put into a landfill would average about 5,000 tons a year. So that essentially is what the committee has considered, and I think is what we'd like to do.
Basically, we'd like to see them give us a bid, and you can vote against any bid if you want. So that's
What, I guess, so we're gonna ask them to bid on picking up our garbage, our weekly garbage, and doing our recyclables, and in addition, hauling it. And then we're gonna give them 2+ acres of land to use at their disposal for nothing, as long as they don't violate these 3 parameters. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that, for instance, right now we're paying $28 a ton at the disposal site. Plus the cost of hauling, yes, and gathering and the compacting and so on and so forth. But this would more or less, I think, meet some of the objections that were made at one time by I believe, the union member that wanted a long-term contract. Well, this is a long-term contract. And anyway, that's where we are.
And what impact does it have on the staffing levels that we currently have?
Yeah, it has no impact.
No impact on them whatsoever.
How so?
It'll take our guys, Rosie, out of hauling the garbage to the landfill site and put them back on the city street crews where they need to be. It's going to help Joe out with his maintenance and stuff through the city. Our guys will not have to be hauling no more. It runs us roughly $95 a truck with fuel
pay and everything for them to run it.
Joe, do you have any, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Have you been in these meetings too?
Yes, first of all, I think before we go into bidding something like this out, I don't know, the rules seem to keep changing. We had a meeting approximately 3 weeks ago with a company, and the last I heard of it, they were supposed to get back to us with a proposal. I've never been involved in any of that proposal, and finding out one day last week that they aren't going to make a proposal because they wouldn't want to say exactly what they want because of other bidders. And I know we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, so to see what another company, Allied, has to offer us. So I don't know why we're going out to bid right now when we don't even know exactly what either company has to offer. And I think before we make a move on, I think we have to actually know dollars and cents what it would take to for us to run our own garbage and what we can afford to pay another company, because they're not going to do it for nothing. So I think we have to know those things before we can go ahead and go out to bid, Ms. Walker.
Do you have any concerns about somebody else using that property?
We had discussed at a meeting, and I've discussed with Mr. Jim an area. If that is to go down like that, we can seal that off, but our scale customers will still go down there. That will be the tipping floor down there. And they will utilize the lower gate to leave, but have to utilize the upper gate because they will have to go across our scales to be weighed for garbage coming in. Bear in mind that we are still the owner of the permit. So as Mr. Jim said, everything has to be done in accordance with that permit because we will be held liable.
That was going to be another question. We're held liable for the hauling then, correct?
Yes.
So if their trucks get fined, then we're liable?
They will be acting as a subsidiary to Latrobe. We are contracting them out to haul our garbage.
I'd like to point out one thing. I know that here's the problem with just receiving proposals. Nobody is going to show their hand as to what they're going to charge and then get into it. Well, if you do this, I'll do that. And I did have a chance to talk to the solicitor. And Rosie, this was one of your objections also. That is why we're bidding it. So they'll have a chance to review the specifications and then they can bid on it. But nobody is going to come in here, and that is one of the reasons I believe that Dominion Resources does not want to offer a proposal, nor will the next gentleman come in tomorrow want to offer a proposal, because once they do, the other side then has a clue. I think the best way and the fairest way to everybody is to put it out for bids. And
I agree with that. I agree. The only concern that I have is it sounds like that we're designing a bid based on the wishes of one person. That's my concern. Because look, we all know this thing started with one hauler, and I get the feeling that perhaps we're designing the bid. We're designing it to be attractive to one hauler, and I just want you to tell me that's not true, Richard.
I'm not designing it for any one hauler. I'm designing it, this bid is being designed so that all haulers have an equal opportunity. And there's no reason why a hauler who doesn't have the trucks to take it to the landfill can't sublet it to somebody to take it. So, you know, I don't see a problem as long as we bid it and everybody gets a fair shot at it. And we take the lowest bid. So that's it.
Let me ask you this question. Would you be willing, would it make sense, or would you be willing to bid it on a line item basis so that maybe if one hauler came in low on the existing garbage contract and then another hauler wanted to just do the transportation? Or is it an all or nothing thing?
It's an all or nothing, 10 years. It'll probably be a $6 or $7 million contract, could be $8 million. You know, how they factor in the increase in costs, and of course the gasoline cost as an automatic increase. So, you know, it's one bid, one figure, and one hauler. And
what if it's too costly? Then, I mean, what if it becomes cost prohibitive?
Well, I think it'll be marketplace is what's going to control the cost.
And I'm not sure how we can determine if it's cost prohibitive if we don't know what our costs are now.
One other thing that I'd like to add, I'm glad to hear that council wishes to continue the same staffing and to move over, those two gentlemen to move over in Public Works. But right now those gentlemen are being paid out of the sanitation end. And just so council and everybody knows, if those two gentlemen go over, that line item in a Public Works, that their salaries is going to have to come from somewhere. Currently it's coming out of the sanitation.
I'd like to add one comment. I think that we have to, when we say coming out of the sanitation, we had a banner year last year, Madam Mayor, and the year before, as far as what went across the scales. This year, we did $26,000 worth across the 6 scales in January, and $22,000 across the scales in February. This is the only way I see we can stabilize our budget and still save money. I believe that we will save money on this contract by combining them. And, you know, that anyway, that's what the committee
I'm not opposed to it, Richard. I'm not opposed to doing the study. I'm just concerned about making sure we make the right financial decision, and I'm still not comfortable that we are comfortable with our numbers. Alex, do you have an opinion on this that you'd like to share?
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that the committee has resolved to bid it out. I think that's the fairest and most competitive way to do it. Everything will be on the table, and that's good. I think between the time that we actually structure the bid and get it on the street and get replies, we should have the dollars and cents that Joe was speaking of in reference to Mr. Forsch, the cost of what it all does, so that the council will be able to, at that time, have an idea of what it costs internally to provide those services. And as Joe said, know also the difference that you'll need to make up, whether it's through a franchise fee or whatever. You know, the opportunity they have to utilize our transfer station should come at some benefit to them, and therefore they should have an interest, a financial interest in that. So, you know, the contract we have runs out in December, so we've got time to get a spec out, get a spec bid, and I think during that time we should be able to get the numbers that Joe and I are very interested in being able to present to you, which is the true cost of what it does for us to do it. And then how we make up, as Joe said, it's just not a matter of moving the personnel over there. We also have to make up for the salary to keep them employed. And in addition to equipment, for example, we have a street sweeper that just in discussions recently with Derry Borough and others to see if there's an opportunity to maybe replace our street sweeper through an intermunicipal agreement. But maybe, you know, there's other equipment that we may need to purchase for these gentlemen to be able to use, whether that's a leaf sweeper, you know, sucker machine, or a chipper shredder, something like that, so that they'll be able to be busy cleaning and doing the work that I think we've all discussed we'd like to see done.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. I think our further recommendation is that the contract for picking up the trash begins January 1st, 2014, and the hauling of the trash and disposal on or before January 1st, 2013, because it's quite possible one of our trucks will go down. 2014, excuse me. It's quite possible one of our trucks could go down. I was told very recently they are in medium to poor condition, And, you know, if we have to put out an expenditure of $350,000 for 2 trucks, the city can't hack it. Anyway, that's the end of the discussion. And,
Mr. Jim, one comment. I believe our current contract does run to December 31, so we can't just have some other hauler who might be a different bidder be doing the same work that we're already contracted. I just wanted that to be understood.
When was that date, Mr. Kelly?
Beg pardon?
When was that date?
I'm pretty sure it expires December 31st. So
I said, Mr. Jim said 2014.
He said on or before.
No, I said 2014, January 1st, for the street hauling,
Okay.
but 2014, or on or before 2014, for picking up our trash and taking it to the landfill.
Which nobody does but us now.
Oh, okay. You're talking about our
And
dumpsters and things like that.
I think the committee felt that that would prevent a potential catastrophe or catastrophic expenditure for trucks and things. Anyway, that's it. If the committee members want to make a motion to do.
Mike wanted to say something.
I just have one thing I want to try to get clear here. We're talking about the sanitation budget, but what we're talking about subcontracting out is an income to the sanitation budget. It's an expense, right? So we still have the scale, we still have the income, we still have the roll-off boxes that we're charging X amount of dollars. So the sanitation income is, if I'm thinking right, is still there in the budget. So the salaries for those people are still covered in that sanitation, even though we're bringing in income. And however we decide to do that line, I don't see a cost coming there. If we move them to another department, we have to do some type of budget transfer. But what we're talking about subbing out here is hauling away the garbage that they've already paid us for. People have already paid us for. We're just subbing out. So there's really not not income there. That's an expense for us, right?
It's an expense, an
Well,
added expense.
The income's at the net margin difference between what it costs us to do it than what the private sector would cost them. So that's where you'd net possibly, unless it's a wash.
That's like you, if they would even charge us $28 a ton like we're paying right now, but we won't have the income of the trucks, the insurance, the fuel. That's gonna save us money right there. That's how I feel, the same way Mr. Jim.
It's the same way I feel on it.
Thank you.
Any other committee reports?
Madam Mayor, does the committee wish to enter into a motion to approve the way we've set this out and then to prepare the matter for bids? I saw you looking. So,
I don't have enough information. I need numbers.
all right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Nobody's
need
gonna,
financial numbers.
No, Richard, I'm not objecting to that.
Alex said we'll have some numbers here in the hopefully not too distant future.
Do you have a specific date when you anticipate the administration being able to get a bid onto the street?
I would say that we'd like to have it opened before the May meeting. That's 2 months. And awarded at the June meeting. And then that'll give the successful bidder the time to organize and us to give them information, whomever that may be. We may get more than 2, we could get 3 or 4. And I certainly have no objection to one hauler combining with some other hauler in a disposal contract, you know, as long as we get the lowest bid.
nobody's gonna walk in right now, Rosie, and show us any kind of numbers.
Not for bid.
Like 2 months out for bid.
And I don't know how we can make that kind of a decision if we don't.
This is a
have
decision to put it up out for bids. We have the right to reject any bid.
I understand.
I mean, nobody's gonna walk in here and say, oh, we're gonna do it for this amount of money, we're gonna do it for this amount of money, and let them come back out and put their bid in. I mean,
But bids are worthless if we don't know what the cost is. I mean, so we get the bid in, and it's like, you know, whatever, however many millions of dollars it is, and what do we have to compare it with? We don't know.
Ms. Wolfers, maybe I think the task we're going to be faced with is looking over their cost numbers over a 10-year period and asking ourselves, can we bill out an amount sufficient to cover that and hopefully earn the margin we've had. We've been doing that with our sanitation collection for residential and commercial. We get a bid for 5 years, we look at it and say, well, yeah, we can cover this with what we can charge. But the only difference now, as I see it, is we're going to be adding to that the sanitary, the garbage coming through the transfer station through contractors and whatnot. We're going to be asking the same question. Can we cover that with whatever we will have to charge over the bid period? So that's when we're going to know what our numbers are looking like, I would think.
I still would like to know what the profitability of the transfer station is, as it stands right now.
And we should know that before we make a decision on a bid, right? We should have those numbers before we make a decision on a bid. If we put it out to bid and we get those numbers, the bid numbers in, I'm just thinking out loud, if we put the bid together and we get bids in by this time frame that Mr. Jim's talking about here, and we don't have numbers from us, we can't make
I'll be honest with you.
a good judgment until we get those numbers, but if that takes another month to get that.
Yeah, it's doable, but I would like to push it up a month, make it, push it back a month so that you're opening them in June and deciding in July.
I think getting the bids prepared and getting them ready is what takes the time, getting them out there. If we take an extra month to decide on, instead of deciding May to June or June to July, or, till once we get their numbers, while they're getting their numbers to us, we have to get our numbers together. If we don't have our numbers together by that time, at least we have the bid here, we have another month to get our numbers together. That's what you're saying.
It's obvious
right?
that,
as long as
I don't know what the bid, I just feel like we're rushing this, and I don't understand why.
If the bidders put a bid in that the number that they're presenting is good for 60 or 90 days, right? They have to put that in bid.
Well, at any rate, I'd like to make a motion that we do advertise for bids, and
We need a motion to amend the agenda, to put that on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda, put this on the agenda.
Probably administration finance, under administration finance. Second to that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. Mrs. Wolford?
It's going to come up under item,
What?
under
listen,
administration
while it's
finance.
fresh in our minds, could we bring it up now and instead of waiting for administration?
Yeah.
I don't see any sense in waiting.
Yeah, we still need a motion.
We have a motion, second.
We need a motion and a second if your intention is to put on the agenda now. Then we need a motion and a second. And I assume the motion is what, to authorize the city manager to prepare and advertise specifications for residential.
I think we better wait till, okay. The motion is to authorize and direct the manager and the solicitor to prepare and advertise specifications for opening before the May meeting and for awarding at either the June or July meeting, depending on the amount of research that has to be done. According to what I think that the committee has laid out.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion? Okay. Barbara? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think that really it'll work out, and Joe, I think you'll be satisfied with it, and I think it's going to save us money, and it's going to keep our employees on. And I know it sounds a little bold, but I think this is the way we have to go.
Okay. Board authority reports? No. Oh, okay. Danny?
Madam Mayor, I've invited Danny Shavit of Pango Parking to just give an update for the parking authority and the city parking. And Danny, if you can. Sorry about not keeping our promise to start you at 6:40. I didn't know we were going into that discussion.
You think they can be disconnected? Well, you're sort of disconnected with the one pipe. Just make the problem is this is not a screw. So it's going to one side. Sure.
Easier that way. But then everyone can see.
Sure.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah. First, thank you for the opportunity to present the Pango activity during the last 9 months, actually it's 9 months already. And I want to thank the City Council and the City Administration for the opportunity to provide the services of Pango. Because as you probably know, Latrobe was the first city in the US that adopted the Pango services. But since then, we do have operation in Tulsa, Maryland, and in Phoenix, Arizona, and New York City. Actually, last week we launched 110 garages in New York City. So we're expanding, so thank you for that. What we have here is a very quick presentation to show you how we are reporting to the city about the activity. Right? Sorry?
Yeah.
You can't hear me?
Well, I can, but I don't know if they will.
Can't hear you.
They said they can't use it.
I can't hold both the mic and the computer.
Yeah.
That's going to go for it.
Just a second.
How about mine? Alice? Alex?
Just makes me nervous when you start moving the laptops with
Turn that down. Pull your side over and your side over here. Just like that. Yeah. And we'll get it back over. If you want to get that further over for you to get close. Car on board right there.
So that's much better. Now I can hold the mic.
Yeah, mine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can move. Everybody, any.
No, it's no our time.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Thank you.
Can you disconnect your oxygen? These are Thank you.
Good Boy Scout.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Do you have to hold it all the time, or is there?
Yes, you do.
No problem.
Okay, probably now it's better, correct? Yeah. So as I said, Latrobe was our first implementation in the US, but since then we do have Tulsa, Maryland, and New York City in 110 garages, and Phoenix, Arizona. And hopefully we'll have some more cities during the next few months. So thanks to you, we had that start. What I'm going to do here is a quick presentation. I don't want you to remember anything, just to see how we report to the city, because it shows our capabilities to serve you as a city administration and understand the numbers, the behavior of the parkers, and what's the potential of the city. That's the idea of that presentation. So I'll go through, please ask any questions that you might have, and probably you'll get the notion of why Pango was really good for the city. So that's the monthly report for February. And I also embedded some of the numbers in the charts from the previous month. So these are the numbers since the beginning. We started in June 2012, and by
Just a minute. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Should I need that add as well? Okay.
That's good. So till now, with Pango, there have been 5,677 parking sessions, which you can see the numbers how they are catching on along the month. You will see it in the chart in a minute. We collected almost $3,000, and the amount of parkers that are using the system are 281. It's not the registered. The registered are more than 1,000, but it's not the real number. The real number is how many people are really using the system. So there are 281 people using the system, and the average receipt per active vehicle is $3.73. So if you take average of, I would say, 30 cents, which is the average hourly rate, it's almost 10 hours per active vehicle. You get the numbers, okay? That's the idea. That's how it started with the launching ceremony. We got very nice coverage in the media. That's how the city looks like, with street teams and street signs and stickers on meters. And that's how the tendency looks like. That's the weekly chart. I think you can see it.
I can.
You can?
A
Okay.
little bit. I can.
That's the weekly chart, the upper one. And you see what happened since December. Until November, December, there was quite a stagnant tendency because only early adopters were using the system. But you see that since November, apart from the end of the year that you will see the drop, you see that January, February is catching on, and I can tell you that even March, the beginning of March, is in the same continuous tendency. You see the months as well. The month of September, you see that small drop. This one here. And that was since the garage was open, and the garage was offered for free to all parkers in the city, so there was a slight drop. But then you see a continuous increase in adoption and usage. That's a daily chart that we provide to the city administration that shows you every day. The blue bar is the amount of sessions, how many parking sessions was done, and the red line is the receipts. The receipts means the dollars.
Danny, if I can interject, just recently
Sure.
we had a snowstorm last week, and Danny emailed me during the day and said, "What's going on in Latrobe? Nobody's parking." Apparently, past practice was when it snowed, you didn't need to pay. But Kay asked me if she needed to go out. I said, "Yeah, you need to go out. Just be careful, don't hurt yourself." Well, she went out. She wrote more tickets that day than just about any other day this year. And the next day, what was the parking activity like?
Very nice. Yeah, you see really influence from the enforcement, and we'll show it in a minute. Okay. We do analyze frequent parkers because we want to understand how many people are paying and how many of them, those who are paying, are generating the revenue. So if you go to the numbers at the bottom here, just a minute. Over here, okay? As I told you, it's not for you to see, I will explain it in a minute, but that's the type of report that Alex gets every month. You can see that 26% of the parkers are generating 80% of the revenue. So these are the frequent parkers. And with our system, you can analyze it very easily. Now, it's very important to understand it because then you know how to invest the efforts of the parking enforcers or the facilities, so on and so forth. And now we go to the facilities. Here you have an analysis of the parking sessions and the receipts per facility. You see here the zone numbers. Zone number 7011 stands for on-street parking half hour. Okay? You see that the most used zone is 70102, which is on-street 2 hours. And we can explain it because we believe, again, we don't have the exact numbers from the city, but we anticipate that today about 15% of the non-permit parking is performed with the bank system, which is very nice within 9 months. It's very nice adoption compared to the size of the city. Okay, and we believe that by the end of the year, according to the tendency, we will reach to a penetration rate of 20 to 25%, and that was the approximate number that we said that we will get during the first year. So we are very pleased with the tendency. But here you can analyze exactly what's the behavior of people and where they are parking. The next type of analysis we provide is analysis by hour. You can see here every hour how many people started a parking session. And it's divided according to the type of facility. You have it here for on-street half hour, on-street 2 hour, and you have two types of charts. That's a chart that shows how many parking sessions and what was the receipt that started every hour, and that's the accumulation. And you can see that, for instance, the 2-hour meters, by noon, you get 60% of the daily receipts. But for the half-hour meters, you see that by 10 a.m., you get 60% of the receipts. Okay, it was very difficult to get this type of data with the current meters, but it's very easy to get the data with the tanker system. And so that's for the on-street. You have the same type of data for the off-street. All the parking lots and the parking garage. You see that there's a slight change in the behavior. The 2-hour off-street, it behaves approximately like the 2 hours on-street, but the 9-hour meters parking lots, you see that you have peak hours at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. So you get about 75% of the receipts by 10 a.m. So these are the types of charts and analysis that we provide. Here comes the enforcement chart. We know exactly how many cars were checked by the parking enforcer, how many of them were paid, and how many were not paid. The paid are the green bars, and the purple bars are the not paid. So here you see the parking enforcer's activity. Now, there is a very nice correlation that shows that the parking enforcer, when the parking enforcer checks cars in continuous days, you see an increase in parking receipts. And the parking enforcer you're not checking, the next day or the next days, you see a decrease. So you can see it from the chart. You see that the last days of February, K probably didn't work. I mean, in enforcement, I don't know what was the problem. And then you saw a slight decline in the parking sessions. So it's very easy to see it. That's the type of advertisement that we put in the city, either through social media, print, radio. We use extensively local radio, and that is type of Marcom stands for marketing communication. That's the type of Marcom activity that we've done in the city during the last month. We received nice media coverage during the last month. Probably most of you saw the Motor Week segment, which puts Latrobe on the map, as we say, as a progressive city. And these are the types of insights and the recommendations that we provide according to the analysis and according to our street team that walk on the street and meet people. The next steps that we would like to implement in the city are location-based advertising, and I will say some words about it. Permit management that we're discussing with Alex. I hope we can get it, because all that data is for the parkers, which are non-permit parkers, which means those who are paying cash. We're going to put street team during the next few months to help the city with the change of parking rates and the implementation of the new meters. So we have James here, who will be the first representative, and we'll hire more people. We're hiring people from Latrobe. We're not bringing people from outside. We're supported with the city administration to help us hire people here. It's very important that these guys will be local guys. And the hospital, that we hope that we can expand to the hospital area. Some words about the location-based advertising. We are the first company that provides such a solution. Actually, it's operational already in Cityscape in Phoenix. And the way it works, when you park in a specific zone, say zone 70101, you will get coupons or validation code for merchants in the vicinity that provides you either a discount or full validation for your parking. Why it's good for the merchants? Because one, it increases brand recognition. It's like an opportunity for the for the merchants to use our system as a marketing channel. But opposing to any other marketing channels, that's a very focused and targeted marketing channel, because it speaks with the customers that park near your store or near your restaurant. So you can engage with the local community or the parkers, and it's a very low-cost marketing. The parking validation is a call to action to these customers, because you call the customers to come in to the store. So you can steer customers to the local merchant. It's very easy to sign up to the system. We introduced that system to the merchants last month, And with the street team, I hope that we can catch up during the next few weeks and start the operation, and hopefully during April to present it to the city. That's it. Very quick, very short. If you have questions, I'm here to answer.
Thanks.
I love it.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Can I have my microphone back?
Do we have any other board or authority requests or discussion?
Just a reminder to everyone that the Playland rebuild is the last week in April, April 22nd. There is a design of the Playland 2 back in the back, if you get a chance to take a look at it. They are looking, the Latrobe Unity Parks and Rec, are looking for, I think, they have broken into 3 shifts a day, 80 people a shift. I think some of the days are already filled with volunteers. So, Alan?
April 24th, April 25th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we have shifts open.
Right.
Again, shifts begin 8 to 12, and 12 to 4, or 4 to 8. And they're looking at about 80 a shift. That's about 240 people a day. So it's an enormous effort. A goal for the city, we're going to try to make a way that each employee has an opportunity to do some volunteering down there, because I think it's important for city employees to be a part of it. But we're certainly fully committed through Joe and Public Works, Police, and Fire. We're going to be doing lots of things during that week as well.
Anybody else? Department reports? Chief?
Good evening. A couple things. One is we've implemented a drug report form. The police department has made it available. It's out front in the lobby. Anybody has any drug tips or information, you can fill that out. And there's a self-addressed stamped envelope that's with it, and you can remain anonymous on that. You can fill it out and drop it in the mail or bring it back into the police department. Also, last week, a private citizen came in and donated $4,000 to the police department to implement our camera system for City Hall. The monitoring of the cells and the doorways inside and out. So that'll be used toward that. It's probably going to be around $5,000, but that's a good start. I was really appreciative of that. Also, the City of Latrobe Police and the Attorney General's Westmoreland County Task Force is sponsoring a drug awareness summit, and it'll be held at Latrobe Elementary School Auditorium on April 17th at 6 p.m. The summit will address recent drug trends, how drugs are affecting our community, signs and symptoms of drug abuse, what measures are being taken, and where to get help and support for those affected by drug abuse. There will be presentations by representatives of numerous agencies throughout Westmoreland County detailing how the growing drug abuse issues are affecting lives every day in the community. The summit is free and open to the public. All guests will be eligible to win one of 5 $100 Walmart gift cards, and refreshments will be provided. Any questions can be addressed to Detective John Sleason with the Police Department.
What date did you say?
That'd be April 17th at 6 p.m.
At LES, did you say?
Yes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe? Joe?
Madam Mayor, members of council, before we proceed with the agenda items, I'm going to ask council's permission to amend the agenda for 3 different items that are not included. The first item is a resolution which would authorize the bidding, or not bidding, but the purchase of de-icing salt for the forthcoming winter, approximately 1,100 tons. In the past, we've done this through the Indiana Westmoreland COG. This year, Mr. Bush would like us to purchase it through what is called CoStars, which is the Commonwealth Cooperative Purchasing Entity. The price apparently has been much better, and we can discuss that with you. The second item is also a resolution authorizing the city manager to seek application for a Department of Community and Natural Resources grant for a revitalization program, if you will, for the Lincoln Avenue corridor, the walking path area, the park area, where the train tracks used to be. And the third item is a resolution to approve and entering into a mutual aid agreement with Unity Township. We've worked out the language and everyone is satisfied with that. So one at a time, I'll ask council if I could have a motion to add the co-stars resolution to the agenda. Or I'll do all three if you want to do it that way, the co-stars. The second one is the DCNR resolution, and the third one is the mutual aid resolution.
I so motion.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor? It was Mr. Support, Mr. Jim.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor and members of the council, the first item comes under the police department as item number 1, and it is a resolution entitled Adopting an Investment Policy Statement for the City of Latrobe Police Retirement Fund, whereas the city administers the Borough of Latrobe Police Retirement Fund, a defined benefit plan, which plan was established January 1, 2000, whereas Council of the City of Latrobe has determined it would be in the best interest of the plan to establish an investment committee to provide supervision, monitoring, and evaluation of the investments of the plan. Whereas the investment policy statement is intended to assist the plan's investment committee in making investment-related decisions in a reasonable and prudent manner, and further that the statement outlines the underlying philosophies, processes for monitoring and evaluation of the investments and the investment advisors utilized by the plan. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, Council of the City of Latrobe hereby adopts and approves the investment policy statement prepared February 13, 2013 as amended by Commercial Bank and Trust of Pennsylvania, investment fund manager for the City of Latrobe, said investment policy statement being in form attached hereto as Exhibit A. In Section 2, within 30 days of the adoption of the policy statement, city manager shall establish an investment committee to be comprised of the following classes of individuals. 1 would be a member from the police collective bargaining unit. 2, a member from the Latrobe City Council. 3, the city manager, and 4, 1 citizen with background experience in investment managing, and 5, 1 additional member to be selected by the city manager. The mayor, in conjunction with the city manager, shall submit the names of the individuals for this committee membership to the Latrobe City Council for approval. Each member shall serve until death, resignation, or removal by council. Section 3, that the mayor, city manager, or secretary, or any other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect this resolution resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Ford, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Ford, any questions or discussion?
Madam Mayor, is this the investment policy that we're voting on? Okay. Are the police union in favor of this policy as we're adopting it, or do we have to concur with them?
They are in favor. I met with them the day after our committee met, Mike, and discussed the review with them to their satisfaction.
They're satisfied. One other question, that we owe the pension fund $300,000. Is that correct?
This year's minimum municipal obligation is approximately $320,000. We are anticipating a majority of that, or maybe the entire amount, would be taken up by state aid for local pensions, so that there be a transfer payment from the state to our local government, which will be in the same amount in that transfer.
Okay, when will that take place, Alex?
We get the state aid money in October, but I think we're $150,000 we'll receive towards that.
The full amount?
Not the whole $329.
When we prepared the budget, we pegged in a number of about $150,000 from the state. So for help, remind you of that. And then we budgeted the difference from our own general fund.
Okay. When will $150,000 be paid?
October. Because It goes into the retirement fund.
In October.
I have 30 days to get it in there, but I usually do it within a couple. From the day we get the check, it gets deposited right away.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Mark?
This is resolution 2013-13. Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of council, the next item comes under the Administration and Finance Department, and it is also a resolution, and it is entitled, urging elected officials and the Department of Transportation to continue support of the Amtrak Pennsylvanian for Western Pennsylvania. Whereas the Pennsylvania Passenger Railway System provides an affordable means of transportation to residents of Western Pennsylvania, both to the East Coast and also to the West Coast of our country, part of the Amtrak National Service. Whereas the Pennsylvanian is a much needed option to those who cannot drive or may have difficulty in flying, and is a very important component of our transportation system for Western Pennsylvania. Whereas the Council of the City of Latrobe believes that it is of substantial importance to the future growth of our area that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania continue its support of the Pennsylvanian in Western Pennsylvania. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Latrobe hereby urges and implores the Honorable Thomas Corbett, Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and all elected and appointed officials to embrace the continuation of the Pennsylvanian service from border to border, so that all citizens of our Commonwealth, and not just those in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, will benefit from this form of travel. Section 2, Council of the City of Latrobe requests that our elected and appointed officials recognize that supporting the service rendered by the Pennsylvanian from the eastern border to the western border of Pennsylvania will benefit all residents of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, regardless of geographical location, as well as benefiting the overall railroad transportation system from coast to coast of our great nation. Section 4, that the Secretary of the City of Latrobe be and is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Honorable Thomas Corbett, Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to the Pennsylvania Senate Clerk's Office and the House of Representatives Clerk's Office, and to those local elected officials who represent the City of Latrobe. Resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion? May I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Ms. Wolford, second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Giovanangelo, any questions or discussion? Questions? Okay, go on.
This is resolution 2013-14. Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thanks.
Madam, just realized that I did not have my microphone here. Mine's taped, okay. Madam Mayor and members of council, the next item is one of those added to the agenda. It is a resolution approving the purchase of de-icing salt by the City of Latrobe from Co-Stars. And the resolution reads, whereas the City of Latrobe is a member of Co-Stars, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's cooperative purchasing program, whereas Co-Stars has provided a price for the pricing of de-icing salt, and whereas the City of Latrobe hereby agrees to accept the price of Co-Stars for the purchase of de-icing salt for future use, now therefore be resolved. Section 1, that the City of Latrobe does hereby approve the purchase of 1,100 tons of de-icing salt from Co-Stars at a price to be determined at the time of placing said order. Section 2, that the Mayor, City Manager, Secretary of City Council, and any other proper city officer be hereby authorized and directed to take any and all action necessary to carry into effect this resolution. Section 3, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon passage. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as read by the solicitor.
I don't have anything.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Scapora, second.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Jim, any questions or discussion? Questions? Okay.
I have a question. Joe, you like the CoStar's pricing better than what we've been doing in the past? You feel we can get a better deal? That's the reason we're doing this?
Yes, in talking with our nearby townships and looking into it, CoStars have been able to beat the cost price the last couple of years to a significant savings.
Good job, thanks.
Okay. This is resolution 2013-15. Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mr. Jim Angela?
Yes.
Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
That is 6 yes.
Motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item was also added. This is a resolution approving the submission of an application by the City of Latrobe to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a revitalization grant for the Lincoln Avenue Corridor project. Whereas the applicant desires to undertake the following project, which is entitled the Lincoln Avenue Corridor project. Whereas the applicant desires to receive from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources a grant for the purposes of carrying out the project. Whereas the application package includes a document entitled Terms and Conditions of Grant and a document entitled Grant Agreement Signature Page. And whereas the applicant understands that the contents of the document entitled Terms and Conditions of Grant, including appendices referred to therein, will become the terms and conditions of a grant agreement between the applicant and the department if the applicant is awarded a grant. Now therefore be resolved, Section 1. That the grant agreement signature page may be signed on behalf of the applicant by the official who, at the time of if signing, has the title of city manager. Section 2. That if this official signed the grant agreement signature page prior to the passage of this resolution, this grant of authority applies retroactively to the date of signing. Section 3. The applicant is awarded a grant. The grant agreement signature page signed by the official will become the applicant grantee's executed signature page for the grant agreement. The applicant grantee will be bound by the grant agreement. Section 4, any amendment to the grant agreement may be signed on behalf of the grantee by the official who at the time of signing of the amendment has the title specified in paragraph 1, and the grantee will be bound by the amendment. Section 5, that the mayor, city manager, city secretary, and any other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect this resolution and the DCNR grant sought herein. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as read by the solicitor.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. DiVanangelo, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Scapora, any questions or discussion?
Madam Mayor, is this a matching grant?
Correct. We are partnering with the Latrobe Unity Parks and Recreation to make the grant, as well as the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program. We will apply for $500,000. It is a 50-50 matching grant, the portion of which the city of Latrobe would contribute, not necessarily this year, but over this fiscal year, the next fiscal year, and the fiscal year after would be $35,000 is what we're looking at now. So again, we're going to be applying for $500,000. We hope to get $250,000 from the state. The local match, that is $250,000. The city is looking to contribute $35,000. The plan is what's behind me on the wall here. This is an enhancement of the rail corridor that has been acquired by the Latrobe Foundation, thanks to a grant from the McKenna Foundation. It's basically 1.5 miles going from Weiss Furniture into Derry Township. And we're looking at, again, doing improvements within the city, adding a permanent trail surface, lighting, signage, kiosks, trailhead parking, and other amenities along the site.
What's it going to cost us, the city? How much?
Our contribution to the match would be $35,000 is what we're awarded them.
What, one time?
Correct. And again,
3-year period. Or
if we're able to make application in April, the announcements would be in the fall. The earliest any of that 35 theoretically could be required would be this year in December, but it's more likely to be 2014. Therefore, in our 2014 capital budget, we should set aside 35. However, it may go into 2015 as well. And that's just a nuance of the way projects with the state work.
Alex, what I'm asking you, are we gonna put up 35,000 a year for X number of years?
One time, 35,000 is our contribution to the 500.
One time?
Yes.
So out of the 500, one time out of the 500,000, we're gonna pay 35,000, is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
This is falling under Latrobe Unity Parks? Am I correct in?
They're going to do the yeoman work of putting the application together, but the DCNR wants a local government applicant. They would rather it not be the nonprofit. Right now, the trail is actually owned by the foundation, and the city owns the right-of-ways alongside Lincoln Avenue and Truman. And then, of course, once you get past the athletic field, which the athletic field is also the city's, it's private ownership on the one side, except for, I guess, a little extension of the Brandon.
But the whole trail is in the city limits.
Correct. Improvements we will be making are, once it gets across 982, the trail continues on to the skate rental place, the arena. However, there's no improvements proposed to go beyond 982. We're looking at 982 to 981.
Any other questions? Discussion?
Mr. Kelly, there's just, you might want to check the date on your resolution.
Ready? This is resolution 2013-16. Mr. Scafora.
Yes.
Mr. Jim.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford.
Yes.
Mayor Griffin.
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and members of council, the remaining item that was added to the agenda is a resolution, and it's entitled Approving and Authorizing Entering into a Mutual Aid Agreement for Emergency Services with Unity Township, and whereas pursuant to Section 7504 of the Emergency Management Service Code, county and local coordinators of emergency management shall develop mutual aid agreements with adjacent political subdivisions for reciprocal emergency service, which mutual aid agreements shall be ratified by the governing bodies of the political subdivisions involved, and whereas the City of Latrobe and the Township of Unity desire and intend to formalize an agreement and arrangements relative to reciprocal emergency services by and between the political subdivisions, and whereas the city now desires to authorize and approve entering into a mutual aid agreement for emergency services with Unity Township, now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Latrobe does hereby authorize and approve entering into a mutual aid agreement for emergency services in the form attached hereto is Exhibit A, Section 2, that the mayor, city manager, city secretary, and any other proper city officer be hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents to effectuate entering into the mutual aid agreement for emergency services as described above, and to take any and all other action necessary to carry into effect the within resolution resolved in council this date. And I might add that the language has been reviewed with a solicitor from Unity Township. It's acceptable both to myself and to him, and I understand that it will be brought to their attention on March 14th for approval. The remaining, I would also add, there are several other municipalities I have not yet heard back from. Erie Borough, Ligonier Borough, Ligonier Township, Youngstown Borough. I wanted to give them about another couple of weeks, and then I'm going to send a reminder letter and ask for it to stand. The proper motion will be to adopt the resolution as read.
Yeah, we have a motion to adopt the resolution.
I so move.
Mr. Jim, second.
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Forrest. Questions, discussion? Questions?
This is resolution 2013-17. Mr. Jim?
Yes.
Mr. Spapora?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolford?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Forge?
Yes.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
That is 6 yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Those are all of the action items, Madam Mayor.
And unfinished business?
I think that mutual aid agreement was under unfinished business, so we'll probably do business. Oh.
Madam Mayor, under new business, I would like to ask the council to excuse or ask themselves for an executive session to discuss personnel matters. That's it for, as far as for me, for new business.
I brought up a new business I wanted to bring up, and I asked Alex about it. He already told me they're going to be looking into it. It was Josephine Street and how bad it is. I had a couple of neighbors call me up down there. But Alex always told me this on their paving program. I just want to thank you, Joe.
I told Fabian that we kind of thought maybe we'd leave it in bad shape for traffic calming purposes.
It is that.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it is our #1 paving priority. And Joe, we don't have a number yet, an estimated cost, but we did get our letter from PennDOT for liquid fuels, and we are going to receive this year $192,000. Typically, we spend the liquid fuels on street lighting and de-icing materials. However, that number of $192,000 gives us a pretty good ballpark figure for what our paving program will be this year.
You want to do your manager's report?
Manager's report is as written.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have anything to say. Okay. Everybody? Oh, go ahead.
The mayor and I attended, as well as several of our council members who are part of the committee, the testimonial banquet for 2013 for the Latrobe Volunteer Fire Department. It's remarkable that 94 members have over 20 years of service, totaling over 3,400 years. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct.
And that 31 of them have actually been serving longer than I've been on planet Earth. So that's pretty impressive.
You're pretty old.
When you look at those numbers, former Chief Dalton at 72 years, and what they do is they recognize the 5-year increments. And so between 20 years and 72 years, you have, again, 94 individuals that serve this city well. Mike?
Right, and then that's only from 20 years and above. We have other individuals that have years from 1 to 19 that aren't recognized in that banquet, but you're right, that banquet there was 94 people, 20 years service through Earl Dalton, and that's over 3,400 years of service. Those still living members of the community.
I also went to the American Legion banquet on Saturday evening, and we had Bart write a type of commendation from people who know Danny Stump. He had to finally, the doctor told him he had to retire. He's 95. He's not happy. He told him he couldn't drive in the snow, and here somebody saw him shoveling the snow. He said he didn't tell me I couldn't shovel snow. He said I can't drive in the snow. So he's a real nice guy, real asset to the community. He's done so much, so he's just not happy. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say that we have 4 senior members back here at the fire department. I just want to thank you guys for your service.
Thanks. Okay, we have a motion for adjournment then?
So moved.
Mr. Spore, second. Mr. Force, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks for, yeah.